Hello. Every person in this world has a need for a beautiful art, for a beautiful theater. And if you have that need, sometimes watching a performances on the stage, you become very disappointed. Sometimes reading about theater, you also become very disappointed because that what people are writing about theater is telling you that beauty has no place in today's world or in today's theater. But they are wrong. You are right. Your need for beautiful theater is actually very legitimate because the theater started as an art, started not just from beauty, but from the sacred, from the saint ritual. And theater was a part of a ritual and of a human activity that is telling about sacred stuff for 15th century. So the theater was ritual theater in the Greek time, in ancient Greece, when it started from the ritual dedicated to god Dionysius, and where was telling the truth about their religion and their lives through theater means. But theater was also a ritual in Middle Age that lasted 10 centuries. And in all that time, theater was, as in the Greek time, very ritual, very didactic. So telling the truth about fate, about life, and showing to the people examples how to live on this world and how to preserve their souls and all the values that has meaning for us. In the European history of art, and when I say European, I talk about a space of Europe and America that also belongs to us. The space that shares some artistic conventions. I actually talk about specific space that shares the same knowledge and the same worldview and the same artistic periods. So these periods, we are very often driving on that line. And concerning theater, everything starts in 5th century before Christ with ancient Greece and with the Dionysius rituals that becomes a theater, a tragedy. Then the Middle Age, then the Renaissance, then the Baroque, then the Neoclassicism, then the Romanticism, then plays from 18th and 19th century and 20th century. That line shows these periods that we as a Europe are sharing because we are one cultural space. So, interesting thing is that until the end of Middle Age, theater was ritualistic and didactic. The function of the theater was like that. And the whole society knew that. And the theater was very valuable in that time. Because if you were doing bad things during the performance in Greece, you could be not just expelled from that theater, from that big arena where the theater was performed, but you could be condemned to death. Because theater was so important for them. Also, if you were a rich person and very noble in Greek time, you had something called liturgy. That was like something that you had to do for your society, for the city of Athens. And so the people were choosing what to do. And it was like the choice between, for example, equip a ship, a battleship on one side, or organize a theater during the Dionysius festival. So the theater was so expensive as a ship, a war ship, but on the other side, the theater was also so important as the warship or as the fighting the war for their city. So the theater was so important for this 15 centuries, because we are talking 5 centuries Greece, 10 centuries Middle Age. The theater was still important, but then you had specific periods, these artistic periods, where theater was affirming society where they live. And then you have periods where theater was not affirming the society where they live, but they have some other ideas. So to explain that, I have to write one important word, world view. Worldview. So, the worldview is our attitude toward us, who we are. The worldview is our attitude toward things around us. Where do we live? And the worldview is our attitude toward something above us. Who is the God? Does God exist? So that worldview is very important. It's something that we all share as main beliefs, and that actually affects our acts and our lives. So this worldview contains, you have here the religion, later on the law, the paradigms, the all fancy words we are talking about. But the worldview is that one word that is covering everything. So that worldview, from here, so after Greece, until here, was one. And it was obviously Christian worldview, or based on Christianity. So another worldview was on Greece, during the Greece time. It was their mythology, so it was different worldview. But the theater had the same function, it was ritual. So from Middle Age, it happens one big cut in this worldview history. And started new worldview that is based on Christianity. The main characteristic of that view is, first, attitude toward world. So who is describing the world? Fate or God. So if we have attitude toward world, we have fate, God as representative, and emotion is love, because our God died to save all of us. So that's the main level. So that's what I'm writing now from the worldview, is so-called hierarchy of values. So I don't know how to write hierarchy, but okay. Hierarchy of values is what I'm writing now. That is coming from that worldview. So on the second level is attitude toward society we live in. Society we live in. So the main attitude towards society was duty. So duty was something that was implanted in humans. Whatever position you are, you have certain duty toward world around you. So the main representative is king. King. And the third level is private level. So the attitude toward person is honor. So person is honor. And the representative is fatherly figure. Father or fatherly figure. So now, father. So now it's important, it's very, So now it's very important and very interesting connection between that hierarchy of values coming from that worldview and these epochs. Because in certain epochs, the theater was affirming that. Like, in Middle Age, they were affirming all of that worldview, but the main character was God, because in Middle Age, the God was on the stage. Christ, saints, and so on. In Baroque, the main character is king. So the paradigm play for that Baroque is Calderon. La vida es sueño, or the life is a dream. So that's the paradigm for Baroque. And the Baroque was represented with the plays about kings. And then in that 18th and 19th century, we have this third line showed on the stage. That third line is represented in melodramas, pièces bien faites, Volksstücke, the different kind of plays that were showing society from the point of view of that level. There were no gods and no kings in these plays, but all of that was thought about. So it was present there. So we had these periods that were affirming all that, and that were telling on the stage that life has a meaning, that the God is on the top of everything and He loves us, and that goes further down and makes a serious and important world frame for us as a people. So the main idea of that was to show people how to live on that earth and how to save their souls, because we are going from Christian worldview, of course. So the idea is how to save your soul on the earth during the life, and all these plays, regardlessly are they tragedy or comedies. So did they have happy ending or tragic ending? All these plays were actually examples for us how to live on that earth. But there are other epochs, because we humans are very interesting. We get bored. We have the best ideas in the world, or the best food on the table, or the best houses we live in, and then we are not satisfied with that because we now get used to it. So now we want something new, something better, something different. So that's what we were doing in the history of theater. The epochs are exchanging, and every new epoch is actually against the one that was before. So after Middle Age, the Renaissance came. So Renaissance, Neoclassicism, and Romanticism are epochs where these three epochs, the Renaissance, the Neoclassicism, and Romanticism, are actually against that worldview. They are still living in that society, but they didn't like it so much. So all three epochs took something else as their source, as the source of their ideas. Of course, Renaissance and Neoclassicism, they took Greece. That's what we learned in the school. And Romanticism, we sometimes learn that they were inspired by Middle Age. No, they were not. They are not Christian. There is no Christian mythology in Romanticism. They were actually inspired from mythology and pre-Christian mythology. So the Nordic tales and the other stories, they were even inventing mythology because they didn't want a Greek mythology, because they were after Neoclassicism, so they didn't want the same as before. They wanted something new, and they took some other mythologies. So now we have two types of epochs. The one that are affirmative, affirm the worldview and the society they live in, and the other that actually are, we call them imitative epochs because they imitate the Greeks or others. But basically, they don't affirm their main values. The problem is that the first epoch that were like that, Renaissance, did something that was very interesting, and that happened in the other periods too. They lost audience. Because when you are writing from your period, from your world, then everybody understands you. When you are writing, imitating someone else's set of values or set of mythology or whatever, people don't understand you. You have to be educated to go to theater. So whenever we have that kind of affirmative epochs, in Greek time, in Middle Age, in Baroque, in 18th and 19th century melodrama plays, everybody can go to theater. Everybody understands. Theaters are full. People are adoring theater. Now, when we have these imitative epochs, like Renaissance, Neoclassicism and Romanticism, then you have split audience, educated audience, and kind of stupid audience, kind of audience that don't understand. And then you have to explain to that audience what they should see and what they should understand. So whenever you have split audience, trust me, it's imitative epoch and it's not talking about what we actually want to see. So this is the history. Now it comes problem. In the 19th century becomes a new clash. So one clash in that line, one clash was between Greece and Middle Age, because then the Christianity become and the new society become different society. We are inspired by Greece, but it's different society. No, so that's the first clash. But the second clash was in the 19th century, and that's something that still actually reigns, and that's a new worldview. The new worldview has a different hierarchy of values. So the attitude toward world or God or whatever. Now so that new worldview started with Enlightenment, and they proclaimed the death of God, because until then, even the epochs who didn't like and didn't affirm their period, they still were living in the society that affirmed God, and everybody was religious until 19th century. There are no atheist people until 19th century. There are people who didn't want to accept that God that we believe in, but there are no atheists. So 19th century invented atheism, and they said that we are defining a world not by God and religious, but by science and by brain. So brain becomes important because the main goal is truth. So to get the truth about the world around us, what is enough is to take science and explain everything, and also technology. That's another thing. So the new hierarchy of values become put a science on the top of our lives. Before it was religion on the top of our lives. Now it's science. So that means that what science says, we believe. Science says grease is not good, we don't eat grease. Then science says oil is good, we eat oil. Then science says, oh no, now the cocoa grease is good, so now we eat cocoa grease because it's now good. So we trust science today. So that's the first thing. The second level is attitude towards society. And down there it was duty. What you can do for the society when you are who you are, whatever who you are. Now is criticism. So this new worldview put criticism as the most valuable attitude towards society. Your duty is to criticize bad things in the society, because then through science and technology we will make it better. So that was like a noble at the beginning, that idea. So criticism to make it better, to improve. Improvement. Now, the third level, it's the individual level. So this is God, this is society, this is I. On that level, the individual becomes the most important thing. And the freedom of individual becomes the biggest value. And your freedom as individual becomes like so there are no honor anymore. There are nothing that you due to someone. It's you and your wishes and your needs and your freedom. The freedom, individual, the freedom was the most important values. And now we are in problem a little bit, because from that worldview, that I even don't know how to call it, they call it secularism, or they call it atheist worldview. I don't know, now we have a problem, tu ćemo stati. Okay, so now we have a problem. So from that worldview that is based on atheism, because they threw away God in the private space, from that point of view, we are now describing and evaluating the former periods. So now, all of a sudden, we like these periods who dislike their epochs. So we like Renaissance, Neoclassicism and Romanticism. Oh, they are great. Oh, we learn about that in school. We like it. We dislike the Middle Age, the Baroque, and this 18th and 19th century, because they are very affirmative to their worldview and they are very Christian framed. So we dislike them. So for us today, Middle Age is just a dark age where everything was very, very wrong and they were killing witches. Baroque is for us the period with fat women on the paintings and not understandable poetry. 18th and 19th century, we don't have a name for that period because we were so against it in 20th century that we so dislike it that I don't have a name for that period. I call it 18th, 19th century plays, and these are plays that are talking about citizens, not nobles anymore, but from the former worldview in the frame of God. And now we don't like it. So we don't like it. So what we like it, as I said, the periods where they had other influences and other sources of their thoughts, especially the Greece time, Renaissance and Neoclassicism and Romanticism. But the problem is what to do with Greece, because the Greece had, as I said, ritual theater. They were very religious and they were affirming their religion. So they are now something that we don't like from this worldview. They are not criticizing in this place. There are no individual freedom. You have to follow your duty. So and there is no science that explains world in the Greek time, but God's mythology. So now we cannot abolish Greek time because as we abolished Middle Age, we abolished Middle Age in this period, in this line of periods. But we cannot abolish Greece because Greece is so important. It's the beginning, and also it's the inspiration of other periods. So how can we, deny it now? So what we do, we reinterpret Greece. That means that we take tragedies that have main character, that is always making some tragic mistake. And that's why he is punished. And that is explained by Chorus, who is always telling us what is his vice, what is his sin, what is his mistake, and why is he punished, and what he should do. The Chorus says that. So now today, we take these tragedies and says, okay, we get away from Chorus, we take just the character, the main character, and we present him as a critic of the society and critic of the gods. We will show how the gods are not just, they are unjust, they are stupid, because we don't like gods now. And our hero will be the fight for the freedom of the individual. So now we got Oedipus as the fighter for the truth. Although in the second scene, Tiresias, the prophet of the Apollon, says five times, Tiresias says to Oedipus, you killed Laius. So he tells him his vice. But we said, no, he is actually searching for the truth. He's not searching for the truth in the play. He's just trying to abolish that what Tiresias says and stay on the throne. But we are interpreting differently today Oedipus and whole Greek time because we want to fit it into our system, into our worldview. That was the story about history of the theater coming to 20th century. What is happening in the 20th century and why do we have today that kind of theater that we have? And why the theory people and critics are telling you that you have no right for the beauty and the affirmation of your basic values or of God, and that we'll tell next time. But trust me, you do have right for the beautiful theater, you do have right for beauty in the theater, and you do have right to ask, to produce, to make theater that will express the needs of most of the people. That worldview that is thrown away from the European culture is actually still alive in our souls. Thank you.